afternoon, Penguin Beaches, and welcome to another episode of Penguin Beach down here at the African Penguin and Seabird Colony in the beautiful coastal village of Betty's Bay. My name is Byron and I'm going to be your naturalist for the day. Behind the lens, I'm joined by Jay, and I haven't seen Jason in such a long time. It is such a pleasure to have Jason back, and Jay's going to be with us for the next 16 days, thinking of only one thing, and that is the African penguin. So he's going to be waddling around. Jay, welcome back. Good to have you back. Jason is saying thank you. Would like to remind all the viewers that we are coming to you live, and we would love to hear from you. So please send in your comments, questions, and even stories. You just need to head over to the WildEarth website, www.wildearth.tv/questions, and you can post your comments and questions once you have registered on the website, or you can use technology and scan the QR code that is on your screen now. That will direct you to the correct page. I let Jason choose the location today. We've come down to the left wing. I know that this is one of Jason's favorite spots to shoot at Stony Point. And I think the main reason for that is because pepper always rocks up here. And there's also a nice species diversity in this region. It is quite windy today, a bit grey and gloomy, and we are expecting some rain. Let's head over to the weatherman and see what the weatherman has to say. Degrees Celsius. I must say it doesn't feel that cold. The sun is still poking out behind the clouds. And there's some blue sky around as well. So maybe the forecasted rain is going to come through this evening. I know we are meant to receive some rainfall, which is quite typical for the Western Cape during this time of year. You can tell by the white horses on the ocean that the wind is fairly strong. It's gusting at least to about 40 kilometers an hour. If you were heading out into the water for a surf today, you would need a full covering of neoprene, because you do not want that sea spray to hit you on the head and in the face all the time. It can be not so pleasant. You can see the big waves out at the back of Stony Point. No surfers brave enough to paddle out there today. It is a 5.1 meter swell coming out of the southwest. I think the only ones brave enough to head out there are the African penguins themselves. It's always so nice to observe a wild ocean. Gloria, you are saying welcome back to Jason. And Jason is smiling as always, dancing behind the camera as well, and always throws his shakas up. So very, very cool to have Jason back. And what a way to kick it off down at the left wing at one of his favorite spots. It's become a tradition of mine. Whenever the camera operator returns, they choose the location on their first day. It's up to them where we shoot. All the other days we decide together. But it's a special day when they return for the first time after a long break. I think Jason was gone for about 16 days. Beautiful scenes at the left wing. We've come accustomed to observing penguins bathe in these shallow rock pools. The tide is coming up. These rock pools are going to fill, and the penguins that we are currently observing are going to come closer and closer to camera as the tide continues to rise. There was a beautiful full moon I actually think the full moon is tonight. High tide is at 3:15. And it is going to be a very, very high tide. So these birds are going to continue to waddle away from those rocks and up the beach. Sorry, Jay?
It's called a buck moon.
A buck moon. Jason is just stating that he believes that the moon tonight is called a buck moon, which is a term that I haven't heard before, so I need to go and have a look. Okay. Jason is stating that it's the biggest and the closest to the Earth this year. A little bit of panic there in the shallow pools. You can see how the ocean is pulling backwards and forwards at the moment with the rising tide and the large swells. There's a bit of a penguin treadmill happening. And the Juvenile, it looks like it's had a partial head molt, seems to be in the lead. It has started to rely on its tail for some extra power. Nothing like a little bit of conflict with an adult to speed the process up a little bit. Hello Sarah and welcome to the show. Wow, it would be amazing to see Pepper. I actually can't even remember the last time I saw that beautiful penguin. We are standing right in front of a channel that Pepper usually uses to come into the left wing, especially on high tide, which is positive as well because the tide is pushing, and then Pepper generally heads towards the slipway. So Pepper is also known by Cape Nature. It's got another name, Spooky, which means the ghost, because of the white plumage all over its head and the top of its breast. Hello Ella, you're 10 years old. I'm just going to ask Dee to repeat that question. I didn't quite catch it all. There's a 6-second delay from Stony Point to Joburg, so we'll hear it again now. Do I think that the penguins know if it's a full moon? I definitely think they do know. They will experience differences in the tides. The tides will be extremely low during low tide and will expose the rocky shores, making it quite tricky to navigate the intertidal zones to head out into the water. And then when the tide is very high, it can also be quite tricky because the waves often crush right up against the rocks, and there's definitely a lot more light during a full moon at night. I'm sure that when there's not a lot of cloud cover, the penguins will even cast shadows themselves. Penguins are known to get up to a little bit of mischief at night as well. Can record observing them at boulders and waddling up into the town to do who knows what during the hours of darkness. But they form these little groups and would always head up just shortly after sunset. Wow, this little Juvenile is just splashing away. The juveniles are all swimming very nicely, joined by 2 adults that appear to be in love at this stage, but you never know when bulls are close together. Sometimes it turns into a little bit of conflict.
We
know that there's nothing worse than just as your favorite leopard is about to catch his first meal in 3 days, you are on the edge of your seat and up pops an advert. But we want to let you know that we hear you. You can watch WildEarth without the ads. Sign up to be an explorer and watch the channel on the WildEarth website completely ad-free. Head over to our Explorer page to find out more.
The light at Stony Point currently is very, very beautiful. So nice to see that rainbow as well. Always something that I personally look forward to seeing. This is why the left wing is so incredible, because of the diversity of species that are found down here. Jason, did you get that question from Darkman Lover? Darkman Lover would love to know what you missed the most about Penguin Beach while you were on holiday.
It's like you said, new species that come to, they basically come to congregate. See how they interact with one another.
So Jason said, Darkman Lover, that he definitely missed seeing a variety of different animal species and observing how they interact with one another. I must agree with him. It is so fascinating to observe wildlife and the ecology of an area, especially for a number of days in a row. You really get a good understanding of the environment here. Sinak, welcome back to the show. It's always fantastic to hear from you. I love the left wing because there always seem to be a large amount of juveniles here, and very, very positive, of course, because that means that these juveniles have made it from being eggs at first, when the odds are stacked against them, to little chicks, to older chicks, to baby blues, and now to the juvenile stage. And very soon, these juveniles that we are observing down here will take their inaugural swim, and only about 50% of them will return. So they've got a very long journey ahead of them, and they are going to go visit a number of different penguin colonies and tour the coastline for a very long period of time before returning back to their natal colony. They do like to return to their natal colonies. They have high fidelity to their natal sites where they are born. Not all of them will return though. Some of them will find new homes. Hello, Megan. That's a very interesting question. You would like to know how many gull species can be found in the region. So here you find mainly 3 gull species at Stony Point. The kelp gull being the most prominent. You can spot from a long way because of their very, very large size. And one of the apex predators in the bird world around here along the Strand line. There are also the endemic heart-lipped gulls that we saw a little bit earlier, running right along the shoreline, getting his feet wet by the water. That is an endemic gull to the west and southwest coast of South Africa, meaning that it occurs nowhere else on planet Earth. And its distribution is associated with the seaweed that we see along the beach.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose. WildEarth Explorers is a club aimed at people who love nature and care about the earth we live on. First and foremost, if you join our club, you can watch WildEarth completely ad-free. In addition, we have great monthly prize draws, a weekly newsletter, and access to some great extra content such as fireside chats, AMAs, and hangouts. For a small monthly subscription, you can join other like-minded viewers and be part of the club. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
I'm sure that everyone can hear that it is very windy down here. Can hear the wind coming through my mic. Hello Hannah, and welcome back to Penguin Beach. So it takes a period of about 3 weeks. So the courtship period for African penguins are about 3 weeks. So from the time that they start mating to egg laying is roughly over a 3-week period. And then after that, the adults will sit on the eggs and incubate them for about 38 to 41 days. And the juveniles will fledge anywhere between 60 to about 130 days of age. Some have failure to launch, others leave a little bit earlier. But it depends on when the eggs were actually laid. If the egg was laid first, generally a penguin will fledge, or a juvenile penguin will fledge earlier than an egg that was laid second. And that is because it hatches first and has an advantage and is able to grow to a greater size than its sibling. I must say that that beautiful juvenile is definitely not camera shy. It wants to be featured in all the shots. Heading out the water now after having a nice swim. Really shaking its head to get rid of any excess water. Nadia, I haven't seen Mark and Julius Caesar fighting again. That was quite an incredible show when we observed the Egyptian geese, the two males fighting along the slipway and taking each other into the water and not wanting to let go. My dad actually phoned me after that show and said that he could not believe what he was seeing. So it was quite an aggressive encounter. Mark and Cleopatra are along the beach, a little bit far away from us at the moment and lying down because of the wind with the crazy eight. And there's another pair of Egyptian geese further to the northeast of them.
After an exhilarating day of live safaris, what better than to cozy up around a fire? Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and let our guides enchant you with their stories and exciting animal encounters. And of course, stand a chance to join in the chat and get your questions answered in real time. So what are you waiting for? Join the Explorers Club today and start to enjoy our special evenings around the fire. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
looks like we've got a little surprise, something that I didn't notice earlier. Jay, if we look at the two Egyptian geese that are coming towards us from the northeast direction, you'll notice that they are being followed by some very young chicks. And we have another Egyptian goose family occupying this left wing area, and that could explain why there was so much conflict in the past with this competition for space. They are slowly making their way in the direction of where Mark and Cleopatra are sitting. They're still about 50 meters away from them. It's just amazing how these little chicks can follow the parents straight away, and look at them. They're following the parents into a very, very surgy area with waves. They're just behind the rock at the moment. Hello, Ethan. That is a fantastic question. So if we look at the Egyptian geese, and that adult is just giving one of the penguins a little bit of a rev with the nice open bill and honking away a little bit, you'll notice that the Egyptian geese blend in very, very well with their environment, especially around the coast here, where the rocks and the seaweed match their color. You'll notice that the chicks, when we get a visual of them again, have incredible camouflage. If they sit still around the rocks, they will literally look like one of the rocks. The penguins also have a form of camouflage. They are better camouflaged in the sea with their black and white plumage, the black on the top and the white on the bottom. That is known as counter shading. So the ocean floor is very, very dark, and if a predator looks down and a penguin is swimming underneath it, it will be able to blend in with the ocean floor. And the opposite is true if a predator is looking up at a penguin swimming above it. The light color of the belly or ventral area will blend in with the light coming in from above. But then there are some birds, and a lot of sunbird species are a good example, where the male has beautiful iridescent feathers that really make it stand out to predators. And they have those beautiful iridescent feathers and bright colors to attract the females so that they can have better reproductive success. So some birds will trade off camouflage to enhance their reproductive success. And you'll notice in the sunbird species that I'm talking about, the females are very dull colored and blend in with their environment.
So I started watching WildEarth at the beginning of COVID, and I haven't looked back since. I've seen all of the leopards I wanted to see in Marive's. He's been so playful and such a character. I had to remind myself to breathe at some points. To see those two cubs made me very emotional. It's just been brilliant. It's just blown me away.
We protect and reconnect nature across southern Africa. We bring countries together to care for wild spaces that stretch beyond borders. We protect and restore biodiversity. We prioritize the people living in these landscapes, enabling them to thrive in harmony with nature. We are restoring tomorrow.
Mom is in action, honking away. Let's have a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What do the viewers think at home? 8, Jay? How many are you counting there? They're so small. There we go, that's better. When they're not walking amongst the rocks and the seaweed. Look how they huddle close to Mom for protection. You'll notice that Mom's bill is constantly moving. She's honking away, And that vocalization given by mom is to keep the chicks close to her and to keep them together. She does not want the penguins to come close to the chicks. Victoria, this is so exciting to see some new additions to Penguin Beach. They are just so cute and furry, and we are going to have the opportunity to watch them grow, and they're going to change quite rapidly as well. We should be able to observe them for at least the next 2 to 3 months, as we have with Mark and Cleopatra. I really enjoyed watching Mom's behavior towards the penguins. Of course, penguins won't try and eat the chicks, but penguins can get a little bit grumpy, and if one does decide to lunge at a chick and peck it with its bill, it could very well kill it, and that's why Mom is being so defensive, especially when they are so young and delicate. Now we will see the camouflage in action when they move around the stranded sea bamboo. Very interested to see if they continue taking this direction, because they're getting closer and closer to Mark and Cleopatra. Hello, Olivia. That is such a cool question. Why are chicks so fluffy? And that is because they've got a different type of feather known as a down feather that keeps them nice and insulated when they are young. As time goes on, they will molt those feathers. Initially, the down gets thicker and thicker as they become more independent. And then they will lose those feathers and develop feathers like Mom and Dad. But it is a very specific feather, fluffy down feathers, that will keep these chicks nice and warm in their young age. I really do love seeing baby birds, specifically because they are so fluffy, actually. And they just look so cute. They are being quite clumsy around the stranded sea bamboo. You can see sand fleas hopping around there. And this will be on the menu for Egyptian geese, even though they are primarily vegetarian. Crustaceans like this serve as a nice, easy food source. You can see the wind is really starting to blow from behind us, giving Mom a little bit of trouble. Her feathers were getting parted everywhere. Honey badger, you are quite right. The Egyptian geese absolutely love dune spinach. I have seen them eat it a number of times, and it is very abundant in the Stony Point region and around the Western Cape coastline in general. I've seen them forage on it mostly around the rocky areas and on high tide when the algal beds are not exposed within the intertidal zone. My favorite time to eat the dune spinach is in summer, because all the salt air blows onto it and there's a lot of salt that will accumulate on it. So it tastes very, very nice and salty. This time of year it can taste quite bland, although it is nice and juicy with all the moisture around, which I'm sure the Egyptian geese like. It's nice to have some soft, juicy vegetation to eat. I definitely when it's drier and more salty, just because of its taste. Mom is walking these chicks very, very close to the waterline, and they are getting sandwiched between the ocean and the kelp. The kelp creates quite a big barrier for young little birds like this that cannot fly at this stage. But they are following Mom very, very diligently. Hello, Janet. So I would say that yes, the majority of, if you're referring to seabirds and we think about pelagic birds, I suppose even if they do not like salt, they don't have much choice because there is very, very limited freshwater sources out in the very, very vast ocean that they utilize as their habitat. There will be water on some of the islands, of course, but they do have very specialized glands directly in front of their eyes, known as supraorbital glands, that help to take salt out of their system.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose. We want to make it even easier for you to interact with our guides whilst watching WildEarth. When you see a QR code like this pop up on your screen, then open your phone camera, point it at the code, and you will be taken directly to our question page. Simple as that. Then you can let us know what you want to see, ask questions, and much more.
I've had it before where I've been walking and a waterbuck's jumped out of the grass. It's quite a frightening experience.
WildEarth, it's in your nature.
And the reason for that is the penguin protection fence acts as a very nice windbreak. If you go and lie on the other side of it, you will not feel this northwest wind blowing. You can see that Jason is trying to search for them now. And the penguin protection fence has completely concealed them. I feel like we might be seeing some conflict developing soon. Sorry, Dee, if you could just repeat the name and the question. The wind was really getting me here. Sorry, I didn't hear it. I know it was referring to my highlights. Kelly, how can I not know that name? Kelly is the same name that my wife has. So I would say one of my highlights was observing two kelp gulls, a male and a female. And the male was doing most of the work. The male was eating this very, very large West Coast rock lobster. And they just appeared out of nowhere. Jason and I were observing penguins down at Jacuzzi, and all of a sudden we saw all this commotion. There were juvenile kelp gulls circling in the air, and they were waiting for any opportunity to try and grab this West Coast rock lobster from these two adult kelp gulls. The male was being quite selfish and ate most of this lobster by itself and shared just a little bit with the female, but watching those interactions were just so awesome. How the male was defending his food from the female and how he shared just a little bit, and how they both worked together to keep it was at least four other juvenile kelp gulls, which are close to the same size as them, away from that. That was definitely one of my highlights, but I think over a long-term period, watching Chipper and Chomp from very, very young, develop from very young chicks all the way to the time when they fledged was definitely one of my highlights. I've never been able to observe oyster catchers or chicks from a stage when they just hatched all the way to fledging. I would normally see them along the beach and see either chicks or juveniles and not be able to follow the whole story. So Chipper and Chomp It's definitely one of my highlights, along with the culls. And then I would have to say that there was another day with the little egret hunting here, Mr. Yellow Socks. Igor and I spent the full day with Yellow Socks. I don't think we even looked at a penguin that day. And Yellow Socks was hunting in the shallow rock pools and implementing a number of different hunting techniques to acquire fish in that area. So that was really, really cool.
In the backdrop of every safari is the most effortless natural music. Their twittering, chirping and singing fills the air with a bit of magic on every drive. WildEarth is celebrating this precious choir with a Bird is the Word fireside chat. Join us and a special guest ornithologist to discuss the big birding event, as well as some of the rare and spectacular birds of WildEarth. Some staring and glaring taking place amongst those 4 adult African penguins. Quite typical when we see water rushing in from behind them as space starts to become more limited. This is a good example of a juvenile African penguin that hasn't undergone a partial head molt. Looks completely different to the other individual with the beautiful white markings around its head. You can see the sheen of the feathers. Feathers are still wet and it's just pointing its back towards the sun. Just looking at a couple of visitors passing by, is looking quite curiously at the people, doing some people watching. Always wonder if the animals watch us back. We're always observing them, but I'm sure that they are observing us as well. Why don't those weird bipedal animals have any feathers? What's wrong with them? It's amazing just to see how much shells have washed up on the beach. I really enjoy these wide shots here, and that's one of the reasons you get to see what is happening between all the individuals, and we just saw a minor bit of conflict.
really didn't get that name. I got cat spots, I believe, but I do agree that they are looking super cute. Pretty big cat spots. I'm sure that you are gearing for the sunset safari as well and hoping for some spotted cats to appear. But I do agree that the penguins, as well as the little Egyptian geese, are very, very cute. Fantastic, Kita. It's great to hear from you. We are definitely waddling away. Waddling Wednesdays. It is perfect. I really, really like that. I enjoy waddling. I hope that everyone is waddling at home as well. Nothing better than watching a penguin walk. Something very adorable about it. It's amazing that these inshore waters are so well protected. We have looked at the wave action out back, at least 300, 400 meters away. This inshore area really serves as a nice sanctuary and nearly like a harbor, protecting all the birds from the waves. Hello, Logan. That's an interesting question. What does it smell like? And it really does depend on the day. So after a big storm and after seaweed has been lying on the beach for such a long time, it can be quite stinky actually. If the wind is blowing directly towards you, if there's no wind and the sun is out, it smells really like methane-y, I would say. That's after large storms and after seaweed has accumulated on the beach. There are also times during the heat where you really smell the guano. And I wouldn't say that it's an unpleasant smell. It smells quite natural. It's a little bit stinky, I would say, a little bit fishy as well, of course. Penguins' diet, or main diet at least, are fish and squid, so it can smell a little bit fishy. A little bit fishy and methane-y. What a great way to describe the beach. Jason, any other smells that come into your mind? Are you happy with methane and fishy? Jason's happy with methane and fishy. And sometimes it's quite hard to explain it, but it just smells fresh sometimes. It just smells amazing. The vegetation and the ocean combined just has this like really fresh smell to it. Oh, sorry, Dee, to do this to you again. Dee, can you please repeat Rachel's question for me? Let's see what Rachel... I would say definitely, Rachel. I would say that sand gets stuck between their feathers quite often. Look, penguin feathers are very small and they do overlap, so it does form a very, very strong barrier, but they will move around and that will cause the feathers to move as well and break the overlapping orientation of them. And I'm sure from watching Penguin Beach, you're aware that the wind can be very, very strong and can really blow the sand around. I was actually telling Igor not so long ago that the one day I was surfing, I could feel the sand really hitting me out in the back line. So I'm sure that sand can get trapped between their feathers, and that's why you also see them heading out into the water to go and bathe and get rid of any sand or debris or anything else that is bothering them on their plumage. A day like today, they should be fine. It's quite wet. You can even notice that the beach sand isn't really moving. It's also covered in a lot of kelp, so there's not too much sand movement at this time. But during the drier months when the sand isn't very wet, the sand can be kicked up quite a lot and travel over very great distances. There are dunes at Pringle Bay as well as Betty's Bay at Silver Sands, and that sand does move between these areas, moves over greater areas as well, but it will get distributed over these short areas as well. We're heading out there towards Cormorant Cove, and we can see the synonymous blackbirds with Cormorant Cove, well, the blackbirds that are synonymous with Cormorant Cove, I should say, where the 4 cormorant species are regularly observed. Just from a distance, it looks like there are still some bank cormorants that are sitting on nests in that region. Jason, check where they might disappear though. Check where new mom and dad are with their little chicks. They came out of the protection fence. Looks like they've come to drink some nice fresh water from a seepage area here. Even more across here, like on the path.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose. WildEarth Explorers is a club aimed at people who love nature and care about the earth we live on. First and foremost, if you join our club, you can watch WildEarth completely ad-free. In addition, we have great monthly prize draws, a weekly newsletter, and access to some great extra content such as fireside chats, AMAs, and hangouts. For a small monthly subscription, you can join other like-minded viewers and be part of the club. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
I'm very glad that we haven't set up in that area today. I must agree with all the viewers. Nadina has just told me that everyone is absolutely loving the Egyptian geese and getting to spend time with them again. What an absolute pleasure as we head over to Mark and Cleopatra, and just look how large those chicks are. So they are between the 2 to 3 month period, and they will be fledging very soon. I don't think Mark and Cleopatra are going to let them hang on for too much longer. They should start chasing the crazy 8 away. You can actually see them foraging on the dune spinach. Arthur, I love it. I'm so happy that the viewers are asking Jason so many questions. Jay, did you hear that? Whales. Jason just said one word, whales, with an excited face. So Jason wants to see whales, and quite right, it is that time. There have been a number of humpback whales moving past Stony Point, and the southern rights are starting to come in as well. So Jay, what I can recommend is spend some time up there at World's End, all the way at the top of the boardwalk, and hopefully we'll see some humpback whales and southern right whales on the show. We have been seeing lots of spouts, of course, but they've been rather far offshore. I know that Jax has been quite lucky with Igor to have spotted some whales as well. But this is the season, and we should start seeing more and more southern right whales arriving as well. Three of the crazy eight are absolutely loving the dune spinach. Jason nearly got blown over by the wind now. Hello, honey badger. I'm so glad that you asked about that. So Jax actually sent me some pictures of that skull, and I haven't been able to identify it. I would really like to have a look at it without, well, not looking at photographs. I'd love to see it. It looks so small. At first I thought maybe it was one of the very small terns, like a little tern, but I don't think that it is a suitable candidate. I think the bill is a little bit not as pointed as a tern, and the skull is quite small. So I'm going to have a closer look at it. I know that Jax is probably going through a number of sources trying to ID it, so I won't be surprised if she beats me to it. Jax is back tomorrow. We just swapped our days out today, and I'll be back on Friday again. So let's see, hopefully by Friday we'll be able to ID that skull. I'm sure we're going to have to phone a few friends. But yeah, little tern was definitely my first assumption, but I'm not willing to say that it is a little tern. I think I'm incorrect. Just got quite grey around us. I think that there might be some rain on its way. Temperatures just dropped a little bit. There's still some light offshore, but you can see some of the grey, ominous looking cloud hanging over Stony Point. Quite a wild, woolly day here in the Western Cape.
After an exhilarating day of live safaris,
What better than to cozy up around a fire?
sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and let our guides enchant you with their stories and exciting animal encounters. And of course, stand a chance to join in the chat and get your questions answered in real time. So what are you waiting for? Join the Explorers Club today and start to enjoy our special evenings around the fire. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
When those cormorants were coming in, I definitely saw a flash of white on the one's rump, indicating that they are bank cormorants. that's a great question. I've never been asked what my least favorite seabird is. Wow, I wonder now. Do I have a least favorite seabird? I can't think of something immediately that pops into my mind. I don't actually think I have a least favorite bird in general, to be honest. Birds are my favorite animal. It's no secret. The class aves is, I really enjoy all birds. Sometimes I get annoyed, not annoyed or frustrated. I suppose I want to see new birds. So sometimes when I see a bird that I see all the time, and it's very common, maybe I overlook them, but I wouldn't say that they are my least favorite. I even enjoy the little LBJs, or little brown jobs as they are known, and frustrate my family and my wife by stopping the car to try and identify various little larks and testiculars that no one really worries too much about. So I don't think that I actually have a least favorite seabird. Jay, do you have any birds that you don't like? Jason says that he doesn't have any birds that he particularly dislikes either. You can sort of love and dislike a kalpgull depending on how it is behaving. But I just think that kalpgulls are the most magnificent birds because they are just so intelligent and implement such a wide variety of foraging techniques. But you know, they also go and pick up little chicks, penguin chicks and little eggs. So sometimes I suppose I could say that I do dislike them, but I think I appreciate their adaptability more than anything else. One thing that I don't like, as you can hear it right now, is a hardy dog calling at 4 o'clock in the morning. The African alarm clock. So that is something, because it can wake you up. Hello, Quinn, and thank you so much for sending in your comment right at the end of the show. I'm so stoked that you loved it. Jason and myself down here have had an absolute blast with the penguins and all the other species that we have found down here. And thank you so much for tuning in. So it's been a lovely Penguin Beach show. We are going into the sunset safari, and I know there's going to be a lot of action in the Lowveld, so stay tuned to see what all the teams get up to. Of course, we're not only in the Lowveld, we're also at Amakhala, as well as Kazuko. And Rolf has got the various webcams around Southern Africa as well. So from myself and Jay, it's cheers for now. Jax is going to join Jason tomorrow, and we're going to leave you with some lovely sights of the African penguins down here at the left wing. Cheers.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.